What if I told you that two philosophies separated by more than 2,300 years hold the secret codes to unlock your peace of mind? That between the scrolls of ancient Greece and the manifestos of modern simplicity there is a formula capable of transforming your anxiety into serenity, your chaos into clarity? If you're watching this video, you probably know the feeling well, that tightness in your chest when you look around and see only clutter, piled up commitments, complicated relationships. Maybe you wake up every morning already feeling overwhelmed, even before you get out of bed. If this resonates with you, then you've come to the right place. Today we're going to unlock together the mental codes that keep you stuck in cycles of anxiety and overwhelm. I'll show you how Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that transformed emperors into wise men, intertwines in an almost magical way with modern minimalism, creating an unbeatable duo against the chaos of contemporary life. Over the next few minutes, we're not just talking philosophy. We're reprogramming your mind. Every insight you absorb here will rewrite the mental algorithms that govern your reactions to stress, your consumer decisions, your relationships. Stoicism teaches you to distinguish between what you can control and what is beyond your reach. Imagine the relief of finally stopping tilting at windmills. Minimalism shows you how to create space, physically and mentally, for that wisdom to flourish. Together, these philosophies form a completely new operating system for your life. We will explore 10 fundamental unlockings, 10 codes that, once deciphered, will transform you. We will begin by exploring the historical roots of these philosophies, discovering why they were born and how they have evolved. Then we will delve into the art of conscious control, the liberating power of detachment, and the revolutionary simplicity of authentic relationships. We won't stop at theory. Each unlocked code comes with practical tools, exercises that you can implement today. By the end of this video, you will no longer be the same person who clicked play. You will have in your hands a complete map to navigate modern life without getting lost in the chaos. If you're tired of feeling overwhelmed, if you want to discover how to find genuine peace in a noisy world, then stay with me. Your next 45 minutes could be the game changer you've been looking for. Let's unlock the first code. Code 1, the power of deep roots. To understand how these two philosophies complement each other so perfectly, we need to travel back in time and discover where they really came from. Because here's the first code I will unlock for you: every lasting transformation needs deep roots. Imagine Athens, 3rd century BC. The city is bustling with merchants, philosophers, and politicians. Amidst this urban chaos, a man named Zeno of Citium walks thoughtfully through the city's porticos, the Stoa in Greek, which would give its name to the philosophy that was emerging. Zeno had lost everything in a shipwreck. His fortune, his plans, his safety, all at the bottom of the sea. But it was precisely this loss that freed him to ask the question that would change history: if I cannot control what happens to me, can I at least control how I react to what happens? Stoicism was born, not as a cold academic philosophy, but as urgent medicine for wounded souls. Seneca, decades later, would refine this idea while advising emperors and facing exile. Epictetus, a slave who would become one of the greatest teachers of mental freedom. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the known world, writing to himself about how to maintain inner peace amidst the heaviest responsibilities on earth. They all understood something revolutionary: our happiness does not depend on what happens to us, but on how we process what happens to us. They created a mental operating system focused on 4 fundamental virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, and a clear distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Now, let's jump to the 21st century. We live in an age of information, unbridled consumption, and widespread anxiety. Our homes are crammed with things we buy to make us feel better, but which only make us feel emptier. Our cell phones receive 80 notifications a day. Our schedules are full of commitments that lead us nowhere. It was in this context that some pioneers rediscovered an ancient truth: less can be more. Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, two American executives at the height of material success, realized that their lives were empty behind the facade of abundance. Marie Kondo revolutionized the world by showing that organizing is not just about physical space, it is about mental clarity. Modern minimalism was not born as an academic philosophy, but as a visceral response to the suffocating nature of contemporary life. It is the cry for help of a generation that discovered that having everything does not mean being happy. But here's the powerful insight. Notice how these two philosophies, born in such different times, arrive at the same fundamental conclusions. Both question the dominant values of their times. Both propose that liberation comes through conscious choice. Both recognize that our culture sells us formulas for happiness that simply don't work. Stoicism says, focus on what you can control. Minimalism says, and eliminate everything that gets in the way of that focus. Stoicism teaches, your peace does not depend on external circumstances. Minimalism adds, so stop accumulating unnecessary external circumstances. Do you see the pattern? These aren't competing philosophies, they're dance partners, each amplifying the other's strength. And that brings us to the second code I need to unlock for you. Code 2, the art of fundamental distinction. If there is a teaching that can transform your life overnight, it is this one that I am going to unlock now. Epictetus, that slave who became free through thought, left us the master key to mental serenity. There is what depends on us and what does not depend on us. Sounds simple? That's where the danger lies. Our minds are programmed to blur these lines, to make us believe we have much more control than we actually do. And it's this illusion of control that generates 90% of our anxiety. Let's do a thought experiment right now. Think about a situation that's causing you stress today. It could be a complicated relationship, pressure at work, or a financial worry. Have you held the situation in your mind? Now let's apply the Stoic filter. What, in this situation, is really within your control? Not what you would like to control, what you do control. Do you control the other person's actions? No. Do you control the country's economy? No. Do you control whether it will rain tomorrow? Definitely not. But you control your reaction. You control your choices. You control where you focus your attention. You control how you interpret events. And most importantly, you control your actions. Marcus Aurelius, at the height of his power, wrote to himself, confine yourself to the present. Why? Because the present is the only time zone where your control is real. The past has already happened, the future does not yet exist. Your conscious action exists only in the now. Now, notice how minimalism amplifies this power of control. When you eliminate excess material from your life, you are literally expanding your zone of control. Fewer objects means fewer things to maintain, organize, clean, protect. Fewer commitments mean more energy to focus on what really matters. Think about your wardrobe. If you have 50 items of clothing, you have to make 50 decisions every morning about what to wear. If you have 15 well-chosen items, you have eliminated 35 unnecessary decisions. Your mental energy is free to focus on what is truly worthwhile. This is what I call the geometry of control. The more you simplify the uncontrollable, the more energy you have left over to master the controllable. Every item you eliminate from your home is one less thing to worry about. Every commitment you cut from your schedule is more space for conscious choices. But beware of the trap. Minimalism is not about having less for the sake of having less. It's about being clear about what deserves your attention. Some minimalists become obsessed with counting objects. I can only have 100 things. That's trading one obsession for another. True Stoic minimalism asks, does this help me focus on what I can control, or does it distract me from it? If an object, commitment, or relationship helps you exercise greater control over your choices and actions, keep it. If it distracts you, get rid of it. Freedom doesn't come from having nothing. It comes from having exactly what you need to be who you choose to be. And that brings us directly to the third code, perhaps the most liberating of all. Code 3, the alchemy of liberation. Now let's unlock the code that scares people the most, but that also offers the greatest liberation, material detachment. And here I need to start by dispelling a dangerous myth that may be sabotaging your journey. Detachment is not indifference. It is not becoming an emotional robot. It is not living like a monk in a cave. Detachment is the most sophisticated art of love, loving without possessing, enjoying without becoming addicted, having without being a slave. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome, understood this perfectly. He did not preach poverty, he preached freedom. It is not the man who has little who is poor, he wrote, but he who wants more. The difference is subtle, but revolutionary. The Stoics developed a concept called adiaphora, things indifferent. Wealth, poverty, material objects, these are all neutral circumstances. They are neither good nor bad in themselves. What determines their value is how they affect our ability to live virtuously. Here's the insight that will transform your relationship with consumption. Your objects are not a problem when you are free to have them or not have them. The problem arises when you need them to feel complete, secure, or valuable. Take this test with me now. Look around the room you are in. Choose an object that you consider important. It could be your cell phone, a book, a special piece of clothing. Now imagine losing it today. What feeling do you feel? Anxiety? Despair? Or a slight melancholy followed by acceptance? Your answer reveals the degree of emotional dependence you have on that object. And emotional dependence is the opposite of freedom. Minimalism comes in here as a practical laboratory for developing this freedom. When you consciously choose to live with less, you are training your mind to find fulfillment independent of possessions. It is gymnastics for the soul. But be careful, the process needs to be gradual and intentional. Don't throw everything away in an organizational rage. That would just be trading one compulsion for another. True detachment develops through conscious contemplation. Start with the Stoic exercise of negative visualization. This isn't morbid pessimism, it's mental preparation. Epictetus suggested that we imagine loss so that we can better appreciate what we have while we have it. When you kiss your child, he said, remember that he is mortal. This isn't to create anxiety, but to intensify the love present. Apply this to your possessions. When you use something you value, your favorite coffee mug, that special jacket, practice conscious gratitude. But also practice accepting loss in advance. I'm enjoying this now, and it's okay if I don't have it anymore. Minimalism accelerates this process through active curation. When you regularly evaluate your belongings and consciously choose what to keep, you are exercising the mental muscle of detachment. Each item you donate or discard without suffering is a small victory over material dependence. But here's where the magic really happens. As you free yourself from the need to have, you discover the abundance of being. Your identity stops being defined by what you own and starts being defined by what you practice. You stop being someone who has and become someone who is. And when that happens, a beautiful paradox unfolds. You can enjoy material things more deeply because you don't need them to feel complete. Food tastes better when you don't binge eat. Music feels more moving when you don't use it as an escape from reality. Relationships feel deeper when you don't need them to validate you. This material liberation paves the way for an even greater revolution, the transformation of our relationships. And that is exactly what we will unlock in the next code. Code 4, the revolution of authentic bonds. If you thought material detachment was challenging, get ready. We're now going to unlock the most complex and rewarding code, how to apply Stoic, minimalist simplicity to your relationships. And I'm warning you right now, this code will challenge everything our culture has taught us about love, friendship, and human connection. Let's start with a brutal truth that no one wants to hear: you don't control other people. You never have, and you never will. All the anxiety you feel in relationships comes from the impossible attempt to control other people's behaviors, feelings, and choices. Marcus Aurelius, observing the people of the Roman court, wrote, "How much trouble I save myself by not caring what my neighbor said or did." It wasn't cruel indifference, it was practical wisdom. He had discovered that to love genuinely means to accept completely. But our culture programs us in the opposite way. It teaches us that love is possession, that caring is control, that caring is obsessive worry. The result? Relationships that drain rather than generate energy. Connections that drain rather than nourish. Here comes the revolutionary Stoic concept of amor fati applied to relationships. Amor fati is not just accepting your fate, it is loving your fate. Applied to people, it means loving people as they are, not as you wish they were. Let's practice this now. Think of someone close to you who regularly irritates you. It could be a family member with opposing political views, a disorganized coworker, or a friend who is always late. Can you visualize it? Now, instead of mentally listing everything you would change about this person, do the Stoic exercise of radical acceptance. This person is exactly as they should be, given all the factors that have shaped them: genetics, experiences, current context. Your irritation is not born of their flaws, but of your expectation that they be different. Liberating, isn't it? When you stop trying to change people, you have incredible energy left over to work on the only thing you can truly change: your own reactions and choices. And this is where minimalism adds its genius contribution. If Stoicism teaches you to accept people as they are, minimalism teaches you to consciously choose which people deserve your time and energy. Think of your social circle as an active curation. Just as you don't need to keep every object that comes into your home, you don't need to keep every relationship that comes into your life. Quality over quantity doesn't just apply to material objects. This isn't cruelty, it's responsibility. You have a finite amount of emotional energy. Every toxic or superficial relationship you maintain out of social obligation is energy you're not investing in the relationships that truly matter. Social minimalism means cutting out the excess: acquaintances who only complain, social groups that only gossip, social commitments that you accept out of guilt. It's about creating space for deep, authentic connections that nourish your soul instead of draining it. But beware of the opposite extreme. Some people use philosophy as an excuse for social isolation. I'm Stoic, I don't need anyone. That's not wisdom, it's unhealed wounds. Humans are social creatures. We need genuine connection to thrive. The secret is in the intention. Stoic minimalist relationships are few but deep. They are based on mutual acceptance, not emotional need. They are chosen consciously, not maintained by habit or social pressure. When you master this art of fully accepting and consciously choosing, your relationships become sources of pure energy. And this relational energy, combined with the material clarity we have already developed, leads us to the next unlocking: the state of genuine tranquility. Code 5, the state of imperturbability. We now come to the heart of all philosophical transformation: ataraxia. This elegant Greek word carries the power to completely revolutionize your experience of life. Ataraxia is the state of imperturbability of the soul, not the absence of emotions, but the presence of balance independent of external circumstances. And here's what our culture doesn't understand about peace of mind: it's not a feeling you chase, it's a state you cultivate. It's not something that happens when everything is going well, it's something that's maintained especially when everything is going badly. The Stoics discovered a truth that modern neuroscience has confirmed: our sense of well-being does not depend on what happens to us, but on how we process what happens to us. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire in history, faced wars, plagues, and political betrayals. Yet he found time to write reflections on serenity. How is this possible? Through the systematic practice of perspective. Marcus Aurelius daily developed what I call philosophical zoom, the ability to zoom in and out as needed. When I faced a problem, I would first broaden my perspective. Will this matter in 10 years? What about in 100 years? In the vastness of the cosmos, how big is this problem really? Then I would narrow my focus. What can I do today, right now, in this moment, to deal with this as best I can? This mental exercise doesn't minimize real problems, it contextualizes them properly. The difference is revolutionary. Now notice how minimalism amplifies this ability. When you live in simplified physical environments, your mind has less noise to process. Fewer visual stimuli means more mental clarity. Fewer objects to maintain means more energy for contemplation. Think about the difference between meditating in a cluttered room versus meditating in a clean, organized space. Your physical space directly influences your ability to find inner peace. It's not mysticism, it's basic neuroscience. Chaotic environments generate cortisol. Organized environments promote serotonin. When you eliminate visual clutter from your environment, you are literally creating biochemical conditions that are more conducive to tranquility. But here's the deeper insight: Stoic ataraxia is not passivity. It's not defeatist resignation. It's quiet power, the ability to act with clarity even in the midst of chaos. Imagine an experienced diver. No matter how turbulent the ocean surface is, he knows that a few meters below there is always a calm zone. Ataraxia is his ability to dive into this zone of internal calm regardless of external turbulence. And this skill develops through daily practice. It's not a natural talent, it's a mental muscle that you gradually strengthen. Every time you choose the calm response over the impulsive reaction, you're exercising that muscle. Minimalism provides the perfect laboratory for this training. Every time you feel the urge to buy something unnecessary and choose to wait, you are practicing self-control. Every time you resist the temptation to accept yet another unnecessary social commitment, you are choosing peace over social approval. Small, everyday victories add up to profound transformation. And when you master the art of maintaining inner balance regardless of external circumstances, you can finally implement the daily practices that sustain that transformation. That's exactly what we're going to unlock in the next code. Code 6, the architecture of everyday transformation. Theory without practice is dead philosophy. And now is the time to unlock the most practical code of all: how to transform insights into habits, wisdom into routine, philosophy into a way of life. Because here is the truth that few mention: real transformation happens in the everyday details, not in moments of inspiration. Let's start by building your integrated morning routine. The Stoics knew that how you start your day determines how you live it. Marcus Aurelius would wake up and immediately prepare himself mentally for the challenges ahead. When you wake up in the morning, he wrote, remember how precious a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. But notice how the minimalist environment enhances this practice. When you wake up in an organized room, free of visual clutter, your mind starts the day with greater clarity. There are no distractions competing for your attention. There is no external chaos disturbing your emerging inner peace. Here's your Stoic minimalist morning routine in 5 practical steps. First, before you even pick up your phone, spend 2 minutes doing mindful breathing. This isn't a complex meditation, it's simply paying attention to the air moving in and out of your lungs. This anchors your mind in the present. Second, do an advance review of the day. Not obsessive planning, but mental preparation. What challenges might I face today? How can I respond virtuously? Where can I practice patience, courage, justice? Third, practice specific gratitude. Don't just wander around saying, I'm grateful for everything, but concrete gratitude. I'm grateful for having clean water to drink, for having people who care about me, for having the opportunity to grow through challenges. Fourth, set your 3 essential priorities for the day. Not a list of 20 tasks that will make you anxious, but 3 actions that, if completed, will make your day a success. This is minimalism applied to productivity. Fifth, commit to one specific virtue to practice. Today I will focus on patience. Tomorrow, courage. The day after tomorrow, justice. Transformation happens when you practice one virtue at a time, not when you try to be perfect at everything simultaneously. Now for journaling, the practice that combines Stoic reflection with minimalist simplicity. At the end of each day, Seneca would retreat and analyze his actions, thoughts, and reactions. When the light goes out, he wrote, I examine the whole day and measure my actions and words. But your journal doesn't have to be a novel. Minimalism applied to reflective writing means focusing on the essentials. 3 simple but powerful questions. What did I learn about myself today? How did I practice, or fail to practice, the virtues? What can I improve on tomorrow? This 5-minute-a-day exercise develops self-awareness exponentially. You begin to notice patterns in your behaviors, emotional triggers, areas for growth. It's like having an internal coach who knows you perfectly. Meditation on the essentials rounds out this trio of practices. It doesn't have to be an hour of sitting in the lotus position. It could be 15 minutes of contemplating, what really matters in my life? Did my actions today reflect those priorities? How can I better align my life with my values? This is not meditation to empty the mind, but to fill it with clarity. It is applied philosophy, wisdom in action. And here's the crucial insight about implementation: start small, but be consistent. It's better to practice 5 minutes every day than an hour once a week. Transformation is like muscle growth, it happens through regular stimulation, not sporadic effort. Use your minimalist tendencies to your advantage. Instead of creating complex routines that you'll eventually abandon, develop simple practices that naturally integrate into your day. Your morning routine happens before you have coffee. Journaling happens after you brush your teeth. Meditation happens in the shower. When you anchor new habits into activities you already do automatically, they take hold with much less resistance. And as these practices take hold, something extraordinary begins to happen. You develop a natural resistance to the external pressures that previously destabilized you. It's like developing a philosophical immunity to the chaos of the modern world. And that brings us directly to the 7th code, perhaps the most necessary in our age of rampant consumerism. Code 7, Inner Fortitude Against External Manipulation. Now let's unlock the code that scares the system the most: your ability to resist the pressures of consumption and social conformity. Because here's a truth that companies hope you never discover: your inner strength is the biggest threat to their business model. We live in an economy built on your constant dissatisfaction. Every ad you see is scientifically designed to make you feel incomplete. Every new product on the market promises to be the missing piece in the puzzle of your happiness. And when you buy something and realize you still feel empty, the system's response isn't to question the premise, it's to offer you more products. It's an addictive cycle designed to keep you running on an emotional hamster treadmill. And the only way to get off that treadmill is to develop what Seneca called inner fortitude, the ability to find fulfillment independent of external validation or acquisition. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, but he understood the psychology behind social pressure. It is a shame to be weary of inquiry when life itself is an inquiry, he wrote. He knew that society will always try to convince you that you need more status, more things, more approval. But notice the genius of Stoic endurance: it is not based on forced deprivation, but on inner abundance. When you develop inner wealth, wisdom, virtue, self-knowledge, outward promises lose their power to seduce. Here's the exercise that will transform your relationship with social pressures. The next time you feel the urge to buy something or accept a social commitment just to fit in, stop and ask yourself, am I doing this out of genuine choice or out of fear of judgment? This conscious pause is the space where your freedom is born. In this space, you can choose to act based on your inner values, not on external pressures. Minimalism adds powerful practical tools to this philosophical resistance. When you develop the habit of questioning every acquisition, does this really add value to my life, or am I buying a sensation? You break the automatism of consumption. Implement the 30-day rule. Before you buy anything non-essential, wait a month. If after 30 days you still feel like you need the item and can rationally explain how it improves your life, consider buying it. More often than not, you'll find that the urge has completely disappeared. But the most important resistance isn't to products, it's to social expectations about how you should live. Our culture imposes narratives about success, happiness, and fulfillment. Big house, new car, prestigious career, busy schedule. And if you question these narratives, you're labeled unambitious or weird. This is where Stoic courage becomes essential. Epictetus, a slave who chose to be free mentally, teaches us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This is not a romanticization of poverty, it is a radical redefinition of abundance. When you stop measuring your life by external standards and start evaluating it by internal criteria, peace of mind, authentic relationships, personal growth, positive contribution, you discover a form of wealth that no one can take away from you. And this discovery frees you to make genuine choices. You can choose the smaller house that fits your budget without stress, instead of the bigger house that will enslave you for 30 years. You can choose the job that has purpose, even if it pays less than the job that kills your soul. You can choose a few true friends instead of a large but superficial social network. This isn't teenage rebellion, it's philosophical maturity. It's the courage to live your own life instead of playing a role written by others. And when you master this art of living authentically, something magical happens. You discover genuine gratitude for what really matters. Code 8, the alchemy of conscious appreciation. Let's now unlock the code that transforms ordinary experiences into extraordinary moments, philosophical gratitude. But be careful, I'm not talking about the sugar-coated gratitude that social media promotes, nor the superficial positive thinking that ignores reality. I'm talking about the deep, Stoic gratitude that revolutionizes your perception of life. Marcus Aurelius, ruling the greatest empire in history, wrote daily about gratitude for the simplest things. I thank the dawn that allows me to breathe another day. It wasn't pretense or self-importance, it was a clear-headed recognition that everything we have is temporary and therefore precious. Stoic gratitude does not deny real problems or genuine hardships. On the contrary, it contextualizes them within the totality of human experience. When you recognize that having problems is an inherent part of being alive, you stop seeing each hardship as a personal injustice and start seeing it as a natural part of the journey. Here's the exercise that will rewire your brain for appreciation. Every morning, before you check your phone, identify 3 specific things for which you feel genuine gratitude. Don't wander into "I'm grateful for my family," but get specific. I'm grateful for my daughter's laugh last night, for the hot coffee I can drink now, for the comfortable bed I slept in. Specificity is crucial because it forces your mind to pay conscious attention to details that normally go unnoticed. And conscious attention is the fundamental ingredient of deep satisfaction. Now notice how the minimalist environment exponentially amplifies this practice. When you eliminate the visual and material excess from your life, every object, every experience that remains gains greater intensity. It's like turning up the volume of life by eliminating background noise. Think about the difference between drinking coffee in a kitchen cluttered with utensils versus a clean, organized kitchen. In the former, your attention is scattered between 50 visual stimuli. In the latter, you can actually taste the coffee, feel the steam, and enjoy the moment of morning calm. This is the magic of minimalism applied to gratitude. Fewer objects means more presence. Fewer commitments mean more quality in the experiences you choose to have. Fewer superficial relationships mean more depth in the connections you cultivate. The Stoics developed a revolutionary practice called negative visualization, periodically imagining the loss of what we have in order to better appreciate it while we have it. It's not mental masochism, it's philosophical perspective. Epictetus suggested, when you embrace your wife or child, remember that they are mortal. This doesn't create morbid anxiety, it creates loving intensity. When you truly accept the impermanence of everything, every moment becomes more precious. Apply this to your everyday experiences. When you're taking a shower, remember that there are people in the world without access to clean water. This isn't a guilt trip, it's contextualization that creates genuine appreciation. When you're eating, recognize that you're having an experience that not everyone on the planet can have today. This kind of gratitude generates what psychologists call savoring, the ability to extract maximum pleasure and meaning from simple experiences. And when you master the art of savoring, you'll find that you need much less to feel completely satisfied. Philosophical gratitude is a natural antidote to anxiety about the future and regret about the past. It anchors you in the only moment where life truly happens, now. And when you learn to live fully in the present, you develop powerful inner resources to deal with whatever challenges life throws at you. It is exactly this resilience that we will unlock in the next code. Code 9. The philosophical cure for the restless mind. We have reached the code that may be the most transformative for you: how to cure anxiety by combining Stoic rationality with minimalist simplicity. And I need to start with a truth that goes against everything our culture teaches us about anxiety. Anxiety is not a problem to be eliminated, it's a signal to be interpreted. Your anxious mind is trying to protect you from something. The problem isn't having the signal, but interpreting the signal incorrectly and reacting in ways that amplify the original problem. Epictetus, who faced real anxieties as a slave and then as a free man, discovered something revolutionary: it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about events. This phrase is not abstract philosophy, it is practical mental technology. Let's apply this right now. Think of a situation that is causing you anxiety today. It could be a presentation at work, a family conflict, a financial worry. Hold that situation in your mind. Now let's practice what I call Stoic cognitive surgery. Separate the facts from your interpretations of the facts. If you have a presentation tomorrow, the fact is, I'm going to speak to a group of people about a specific topic. Your interpretations might be, I'm going to make a fool of myself, they're going to judge my competence, my career depends on this. Do you see the difference? The fact is neutral. Suffering comes from the catastrophic interpretations your mind adds to the fact. Here's the question that nips 90% of unnecessary anxiety in the bud: is this true, or is it a story I'm telling myself? More often than not, you'll find that you're suffering from mental fictions, not present realities. But here's where the minimalist environment becomes your therapeutic ally. Anxiety thrives on chaos, mental chaos, emotional chaos, environmental chaos. When you simplify your physical environment, you're literally reducing the triggers that overwhelm your nervous system. Think about your room. If it's cluttered with objects, clothes strewn about, papers piled up, your subconscious mind is constantly processing all of this visual information. This creates chronic mental fatigue that makes you more vulnerable to anxiety. When you create a clean, organized environment with few visual elements, you are giving your nervous system a gift. It's like turning down the volume so your mind can naturally calm down. But don't stop at the physical environment. Apply minimalism to your routines, commitments, and sources of information. Every unnecessary decision you eliminate is mental energy left over to process important situations with greater clarity. Here is a practical protocol for moments of acute anxiety. combining Stoic wisdom with minimalist simplicity. First, stop and breathe consciously for 2 minutes. Not trying to calm down, but simply paying attention to your breathing. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system. Second, identify the objective facts of the situation versus your subjective interpretations. Write them down if necessary. Fact: I have a bill to pay. Interpretation: I'm going to run out of money and end up on the street. Third, ask yourself, what can I control in this situation right now? Focus only on what is within your direct control. Temporarily ignore everything that is outside of your control. Fourth, choose one small but concrete action you can take today to deal with the controllable part of the situation. Action nips anxiety in the bud because it turns passive worry into active resolution. Fifth, organize something in your immediate environment. It may seem irrelevant, but there is something deeply therapeutic about creating external order when there is internal chaos. This protocol works because it attacks anxiety on 3 levels: cognitive, questioning thoughts; behavioral, taking action; and environmental, creating order. But here's the deeper insight: as you practice this approach, you develop what I call philosophical confidence, the certainty that you can handle whatever life throws at you, not because nothing bad will happen, but because you have the inner resources to navigate any storm. And this trust becomes the solid foundation for implementing all these philosophies sustainably in your everyday life. Code 10: The Architecture of Sustainable Transformation. We have reached the final code, the most important of all: how to transform everything you have learned so far into an integrated and sustainable philosophical life. Because here is the brutal truth that few admit: knowledge without implementation is just intellectual entertainment. You've probably noticed a pattern in your life: moments of intense inspiration followed by a gradual return to old habits. You watch a motivational video, read a life-changing book, have an enlightening conversation, and for a few days you feel like everything is changing. Then, slowly, you slip back into your old autopilot. This doesn't happen because you're weak or lazy. It happens because real transformation requires architecture, not just inspiration. And we're going to build that architecture together, step by step. Phase 1: Fundamentals, first 4 weeks. Start with what I call the minimalist protocol. Choose a room in your home and transform it into what Marcus Aurelius would call your physical inner citadel. This could be your bedroom, your office, or even just your desk. Eliminate anything unnecessary from this space. Don't donate everything at once, that would be compulsion disguised as philosophy. But be strict: each object that remains must have a clear function or genuine emotional value. At the same time, establish your practice of daily reflection. 5 minutes each morning asking, how can I practice virtue today? 5 minutes each evening asking, how have I practiced, or failed to practice, virtue today? Choose one virtue each week to focus on. Week 1, patience. Week 2, courage. Week 3, justice. Week 4, wisdom. Don't try to be perfect in all of them, that's a recipe for frustration. Improve 1% at a time in a specific area. Phase 2, deepening, weeks 5 to 12. Now expand minimalism to other rooms and, most importantly, to your routines and commitments. Do a complete audit of your schedule. How many commitments do you keep out of habit, guilt, or social pressure? Implement what I call temporal minimalism. For every new invitation or opportunity, ask, does this bring me closer to my core values or distract from them? If it doesn't add genuine value, politely decline. Develop personal protocols for challenging situations. How will you react the next time someone unfairly criticizes you? How will you handle the next frustration in traffic? How will you respond to the next unnecessary impulse purchase? Write these protocols down when you are calm and rational. In times of stress, your emotional mind takes over. Having predefined responses based on philosophy allows you to act consciously even in stressful situations. Phase 3, full integration, months 4 to 12. Here the real magic happens. Philosophy stops being something you do and becomes something you are. Your reactions automatically begin to reflect Stoic principles. Your choices naturally favor simplicity over complexity. At this stage, you become able to adapt principles to any new situation. You are no longer following rules rigidly, but expressing internalized values flexibly and creatively. Start sharing your journey with others. Not as a sermon, but as a living example. When someone asks why you seem calmer lately, or how you manage to keep your space organized, you have the opportunity to plant philosophical seeds. Long-term sustainability. Here are the 3 pillars that ensure this transformation is permanent. First, principled flexibility. Real life is messy. There will be days when you can't meditate, weeks when your house is disorganized, moments when you react impulsively. That's not failure, that's humanity. The key is to get back to basics without guilt or drama. Second, philosophical community. Individual transformation is powerful, but community transformation is sustainable. Find people who share these values. It could be online, it could be in person, it could just be a close friend interested in personal growth. Third, continuous evolution. Philosophy is not a destination, it is a journey. There will always be new levels of depth to explore, new applications to discover, new situations that will test and refine your wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, at the age of 60, was still writing reflections on how to improve his character. Seneca, until his last days, sought greater clarity on how to live well. Great philosophers never stop growing. And you don't have to stop either. The journey you began today continues throughout your life, always revealing new layers of meaning and possibility. We've reached the end of this journey, but in reality, you're just beginning a new way of living. In the last few minutes, you've not only learned about 2 philosophies, you've unlocked 10 fundamental codes that can completely rewrite your life experience. Let us briefly recap what you now carry within you: the power of deep roots that sustain lasting transformation, the art of fundamental distinction between what you control and what you do not control, the alchemy of liberation through conscious detachment. You've discovered how to revolutionize your relationships through intentional simplicity, how to cultivate the state of imperturbability that the Stoics called ataraxia, and how to create a daily architecture that supports your philosophical evolution. More than that, you now have practical tools to resist the pressures of a world that profits from your dissatisfaction, to transform ordinary experiences into moments of deep gratitude, and to heal anxiety through conscious simplicity. And most importantly, you have a complete map to implement all of this gradually and sustainably, without the extremes that lead to abandoning the practices. But here's the final truth I need to share: this video is just the beginning. Knowledge without action is just sophisticated entertainment. Real transformation happens when you close this screen and implement the first code in your life today. So my challenge to you is simple: choose one of the 10 codes that resonates with you the most, and practice it for the next 7 days. It could be organizing a space following minimalist principles, it could be implementing 5 minutes of morning reflection, it could be practicing mindful pausing before reacting emotionally. Don't try to do everything at once. Sustainable transformation happens through small but consistent changes. As Seneca said, every new beginning comes from the end of another beginning. And if this content has added real value to your life, help me bring these ideas to more people who need to hear them. A like, a comment sharing your experience, a subscription to the channel, every action you take helps me continue creating content that truly transforms lives. In the comments, tell me, which of the 10 codes will you implement first? Your journey of transformation may inspire someone who is still suffering in silence. Philosophy is practical. Life is now. Your transformation begins today. Until the next video, keep unlocking the codes for your best version.